Welcome to our video today on 10.1 involving exponents. This is your do now. You have 2 problems to complete, so please pause the video, attempt the problems without a calculator, and we will go over the answers together. Hit resume when you are ready to move on. If you're listening to my voice, that means that you are ready to move on and check our answers, so let's do it together. First thing we're going to do is our order of operations. We're going to be parentheses. We have that 8 over 4. That's going to give us 2. I'm going to drop everything else down. So I have 15 times 2 plus, wait, hold on. We don't have any more parentheses and reading left to right. We have 2 to the 3rd power. We can do that next. So for our exponents, and we get 8 minus 3 times 7. So now we have our multiplication or division, whichever one comes first. Well, we have 15 times 2, and we have 3 times 7. So we get 30. Plus 8 minus 21. So now that we just have addition and subtraction, we can just operate just like normal. 30 plus 8 is going to be 38. 38 minus 21 is going to be a whopping total of 17. Circle that answer. Moving down to the second problem, we have 3 to the 3rd power minus 1 plus 2 times the quantity of 4 times the quantity of 3 plus 2. That's a lot of quantities. So we're going to work inside the parentheses first. We have 3 plus 2 is going to give us 5. I'm going to drop everything else down. 3 to the 3rd power minus 1 plus 2 bracket 4 parentheses 5 end bracket. Do not forget the ends of parentheses and brackets. They are mucho importante. So now we still work inside that set of brackets. We have 4 times 5 is going to give us 20. I'm going to drop everything else down. 3 to the 3rd minus 1 plus 2 times the quantity of 20. Please pardon the handwriting. My stylus broke, so I'm using the finger. So now we have 3 to the 3rd power minus 1 plus 2 times 20. We actually can do 2 operations here at the same time. So we have 3 to the 3rd power. That's going to be 27 minus 1 plus, we can also do 2 times 20 at the same time because they are not operating together. So 2 times 20 is going to be 40. Now that we have just addition and subtraction, we can operate. 27 minus 1 is 26. 26 plus 40 gives us a grand total of 66. So today we're talking about exponents, but we need to talk about 3 key vocab terms. So please copy it down as we go through, pause when needed, and then resume to keep on going. So the first thing we need to talk about is called the power. I've got the power. It's the product of repeated factors. Number 2, okay, just like Megan Trainor said, it's all about the base, no treble. The base is going to be the common factor. And likewise, oh, no, just kidding. And likewise, the exponent is going to be, well, it indicates the number of times the base is used as a factor. What is going on with this? As a factor. That is not written well. Let's try that again. There we go. Indicates the number of times the base is used as a factor. Let's show you a visual example for this now. So I have 1/2 raised to the 5th power. That's how we would verbally say it. 1/2 raised to the 5th power. Well, the base is going to be that 1/2. That's the common factor. So 1/2 raised to the 5th power. The exponent is going to be 5 because it says that's how many times that base is getting repeated. So it would be 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. And likewise, the power is everything. Let me highlight that for you. All of this is the power. All of it is the power. So the base makes up the common factor. The exponent is how many times that common factor is getting multiplied, and the power is them put together. Let's go into some concrete examples with this. So the first one says, write each product using exponents. Well, I have -7 times -7 times a -7. So we need to first establish what is the common factor. What is my base going to be? It's going to be -7. Notice how I'm including parentheses here. If the base has parentheses, you want to include parentheses. The only time you don't necessarily need parentheses is if it's a whole positive number. We're going to discuss negative numbers very, very shortly, and we're going to be talking about fractions later in the chapter. But if it's a positive whole number, you don't necessarily need parentheses. If it's a negative whole number, there's going to be certain times you do and certain times you don't. And if it's a fraction, you definitely want to include parentheses. And again, we're going to talk about that later in the chapter, but please trust me on that one. So going back to our problem, we have -7. We established that as our base. We now need to count up how many times is that getting repeated. Well, I counted 3 times. So my final answer is going to be -7 raised to the 3rd power. I want you to try 2 problems on your own down here. So pause the video and try them out. Resume when you are ready to go on. All right, so if you're listening to my voice, that means you tried these problems out. So we have 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. We can write that as the quantity 1/4, parentheses included, raised to the 5th power because it happened 5 times. The multiplication happened 5 times. Likewise for B, this is a little bit different. We have 2 different bases here, but it's okay. We're going to still write it as multiplication since every single term is getting multiplied. So we have 0.3, that's going to be one base, and we have x as the other base. Well, I notice I have 0.3 4 times, and I notice I have x 3 times. So it's going to be 0.3 raised to the 4th times x to the 3rd. You're doing awesome with this, by the way. So proud of you. So let's try out this one together. So number 1 says we have the quantity of -2 raised to the 4th power. So that means, in terms of exponents, this 4 is getting applied inside the set of parentheses. So if I were to write it out in what we call expanded form, it'd be -2 times -2 times -2 times -2, and I get positive 16. Notice how the parentheses included the negative sign. So that means I would be multiplying -2 by itself 4 times. If you have a calculator and you want to try it out, you don't believe me? Go for it. Go for it. Type in everything that is shown there, including the parentheses, and you should get positive 16. Down here in the you try section, this is a little bit different. What do you notice? Think about what you notice, okay? Pause it, try it out, and see what you get. We will compare answers. All right, so if you plugged in -2 to the 4th into your calculator, just as it shows here, well, that means you got the answer of -16. And you're probably saying, whoa, why is that? The reason is that the exponent is getting applied only to the 2. We would read this as -1 times 2 to the 4th. 2 to the 4th is 16. 16 times -1 is -16. So it's mucho importante to include parentheses when you have a negative value getting repeated over and over and over again, because your answers are going to be totally different. All right, again, you're doing great with this. Here we go. Let's evaluate these 2 expressions together, and then you are going to try out 3 on your own. The first one says 3 plus 2 times 3 to the 4th. Again, we want to work with our order of operations. PEIDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So, do we have any parentheses in the first one? Nada. So now we move on to exponents. We have this 3 to the 4th power. 3 to the 4th power is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So we get 81. So it's going to be 3 plus 2 times 81. So now we move on to multiplication. We have 2 times 81. That's going to be 162. So we have 3 plus 162. And we get 165 as our final answer. Number 2 says we have 3 to the third power minus 8 to the second power divided by 2. We also can verbally say that as 3 cubed minus 8 squared divided by 2. So we're going to work in our exponents first, and we have 2 sets of them. We have 3 to the third power, that's 3 times 3 times 3, and we get 27. Minus, oh, that should have been in black. Let's see if I can erase. Haha, I can. Let's go back. There we go. Minus 8 squared, and we all know what 8 squared is. That's 64. I'm going to cut that in half and divide it by 2. So now we still move on with our order of operations. 64 divided by 2 is going to be 32. So we get 27. We put the arrow. 27 minus 32. And we get a whopping total of -5. So now I have 3 problems for you to try down the bottom here. The answers have been hidden, and we will go over it when you are done. So A is -5 to the fourth. Notice there's no parentheses there. B is saying -1/6, all raised to the third power. And then we have the absolute value of -3 to the third divided by 27. Remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0. AKA, it's always positive. So please try them out. Pause the video, complete them, and then resume when you are ready to move on. All right, so if you are listening to me, that means you tried these 3 problems out. Let's go over them. A says -5 to the fourth. Remember, that 4 is only getting applied to the 5. It's going to be -1 times 5 to the fourth. When you do that, we get our final answer being -625. For B, we have the fraction -1/6 raised to the third power. So this is going to be -1/6 times -1/6 times -1/6. And so we get a whopping total of -1/216. If you have the negative sign with the 1 or on the outside of the fraction, it is the exact same thing. You are good to go. For C, it's the absolute value of -3 to the third without parentheses there, divided by 27. So when we do this, it's going to be -27 divided by 27, and the absolute value of that. The exponent only applies to the base of 3. It's not -3. So now we have the absolute value of -1, which is just 1, as our final answer. Awesome, you're doing so great with this. So this is your assignment, okay, to complete these 8 problems. Okay, it says write the product using exponents. When you're done, okay, you're then going to check your answers. The answers are hidden in this blue box. So please pause the video, try out these problems, then check your answers when you are done. You're doing so great. You're doing so great. Here are the answers to the 8 problems. If you have any questions, send us an email. We will answer you as quickly as possible. You're doing so great with this. Please complete the assignment linked to the website to fully complete this day. So proud of you. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. Email us if you have any questions.